So I have a bird that is outside of the or on the patio outside of my apartment. There is a bird that is building a nest. I'm used to that. In the state of Texas, I have had that. Even ironically, in the state of Washington. So in the state of Washington, though, it was not birds that built a nest. In the state of Washington, there were bees that built a hive in the house that I was renting in Lakewood. And I mean, it was not a little hive, it was a big hive. And had to contact the owner of the house, and he had someone come out, and I was later told that the guy was wondering if it would be okay to take the hive with him, and I got a text about it. I was like, yeah, helps make honey and sort of stuff like that. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, it's perfectly fine. But it's not something I'm not accustomed to. Before my head injury, when moving into the house in Illinois, when removing the wall, there was wasps' nests that were dried up and stuff like that in that house. And then in New Jersey, there were, despite what people think about the state of New Jersey, the property that I grew up living at, the amount of wildlife that came into that yard was a large amount. There were hornets that built nests in the ground in in um, in New Jersey, and Mike wound up taking care of that. There were garden snakes that would come in the yard, no problem, and he put them on the other side of the fence, and I was like, yeah, the snake's gonna go back. He's like, it happens. It was near the mulberry tree. And then there were deer that would come in the yard. And Mike and Anna, my biological mother and biological father, had said that there really weren't animals that naturally came into the yard in New Jersey until after I was born. Um, whatchamacallit, and I've had that sort of stuff occur ever since I was young. I mean, even when I would go to different areas, like Old Tennant Presbyterian Church, and walking around the cemetery grounds there would be birds that followed everywhere I went. Anytime going to an aquarium or a zoo, the animals just kind of, oh, hey, what's going on? And after my head injury, that stayed the same essentially. So at Fort Sam Houston, when I was in medical hold, there were similar type of birds. I think they're swallows. I don't think they're sparrows, but yeah, I think they're swallows. They're blue tail swallows that are building a nest outside on my patio, outside of my apartment. Similarly to the ones that built a nest outside of my window, my barracks window, towards the top where the roof met the overhang. And anytime I was outside, sparrows would show up, and mockingbirds, and all sorts of birds, all sorts of animals. Then, when living in Lincoln Green Apartments, ironically, similarly to the way that set of birds are doing outside of my apartment patio, that's what they did outside of the patio at Lincoln Green. And then, whatchamacallit, at Songbird Apartments, that was actually really cool. I mean, not saying that all the other stuff wasn't cool. So there were the birds that built their nests. And then there was one night I'd gone outside, taken the dogs for their walk right behind the back patio where there was kind of a rocky river bed-ish that was, like a drainage area, whatever. And on the other side of the fence line was a 12-point buck. And he just kind of walked over towards where I was standing outside. I was like, hey, dinner, but you're pretty. Like, dinner, because I like venison, but wow. And the buck came over all the way up to the edge of the fence line and lowered its head. And I'm like, yeah, I want to pet you, but I don't think so. I better not. And I was like, aren't you pretty? You are stunning. Look at you. It just kind of stayed there. It's like, that's a shame that inside the city limits, because I would. Dinner. I have no problem helping cleaning that up. A dinner, but pretty. And so, but the second my now dead ex-husband, then husband, came outside, that buck turned around and ran off. And I was like, oh man, that was pretty. But that buck actually went over, up the little hill, just kind of stayed up there. And just every now and then I'd go outside, I'd look, there was that buck. Different areas of that hill, but nonetheless, there was that buck. I was like, aren't you pretty? Dinner. Nonetheless, dinner, but pretty. Stunning. So then, moved into the house in San Antonio in Pheasant Creek subdivision, and there were these ducks and geese that would perch in the tree in the front yard. And it's like, all right, well, that's different. At different times of the year. Never the same time. It's like, all right, I've never seen a mallard duck perched in a tree before. But okay, I'm sure that happens. But okay, whatever. And then there were some Canadian geese that perched in the tree. They weren't walking around on the ground. Usually I have seen them. I know that they can fly. I know they can. But it was just one of those, oh, okay, you're just going to sit up in that tree. The bark doesn't, okay, sure, whatever. Why not? Whatever, okay, sure. So one day I was still pregnant with my daughter. And my now dead ex-husband, then husband, goes, I'm gonna go mow the lawn. I'm like, yeah, the lawn needs to be mowed. And he's like, why won't you do it? 'Cause I'm pregnant. That's why I'm not gonna go mow the lawn. Excuse me. Like, sorry, I'm pregnant and stuff, but So he went to go mow the lawn, and some mockingbirds had made a couple of nests in the front yard of the Pittosporum bushes. And apparently, when he went... I got in trouble for laughing at the time, but it was just so funny. I dealt with that conversation, but it's still... It is funny. So not that I dealt with that conversation, but that it happens. Not the conversation, but what happened. So he mowed the lawn, and anytime he went near the bushes, the mockingbirds flew out and started just attacking him, just pecking at him in the middle of flight. And so... Oh, it's so funny. He complained to all the neighbors, and I was just like, or high wing, or whatever it is. And so, yeah, the mockingbirds, they pierced his skin with their pecks. They were not like... They weren't like, hey, what's going on? They were like, get here, and it was like, get him, get him, which was quite amusing. I mean, I dealt with the conversation, but it was still funny. It was still so funny. And so, but yeah, I've had that happen with different animals, not just birds and not just bucks, but like even... where was I? I think I was in Montana, and I was driving somewhere, and like this herd of animals, not scary ones like when in South Dakota, still don't know what they are, but these animals, they ran up to the fence line. I'm like, okay, well, I'll pull over and took some pictures. I don't know what they were, but they were cute, and I was like, oh, you look like dinner. I don't know what you are, but you look like you're tasty. You do. You look like dinner. I mean, you're cute, but you look like dinner. And so, but anytime going to the zoos or anything like that, the animals are just, pay attention, pay attention, pay attention. It's like, yes, I see you. Yes, I see you. You are not a ninja. And so there was this one time I had taken a picture, and there was this monkey who, was pleasuring himself. Well, I was like, oh, well, I got that picture. There you go. I didn't know that happened, but okay. I mean, it makes sense, but okay. Hi. All right, then. Thanks, I guess. It's a little weird, but okay. Biggest smile on his face, too, and it was just like, all right, then, whatever. And ironically, it was funny because after taking that picture and stuff like that, my now dead ex-husband, when he got a bird flew by and just pooped right on top of his head, and I was like, then there was another time which was even better. Oh, it was so funny. Oh, it was so funny. So we had just had a conversation. I went to go out somewhere, and there were some birds just flying around. And he looked up. And he went to say something, and a bird pooped in his mouth. And I was just, well, that's just... I still think it's funny. I don't care, because it is. It's quite funny. But yeah, it's one of those. Oh well, I remember that all those little birdies. So and birds can be vicious. Some people don't understand how vicious birds can be, especially when it comes to like when they make a nest and lay some eggs. Oh, vicious. And so after, the mockingbirds repeatedly attacked my now dead ex-husband, and you're going to mow the lawn when you're not pregnant. Well, yeah, I was planning on doing that anyway, but, you mind letting me, recover? Oh, no, okay, because literally less than 1 week after delivering my daughter, literally less than 7 days, I'd been in labor for a week after having my membrane stripped. Literally in labor for a week. Had to be sewn back up. Oh, the lawn needs to be mowed. Well, have a newborn that I'm taking care of, as well as my son. And, the whole, delivery aspect, oh, well, go mow the lawn because I'm tired of the mockingbirds, going after me. Well, maybe you shouldn't be such a whatever that they're going after you. Maybe you should reevaluate why the mockingbirds hate you. Dealt with that conversation. But then I had a conversation because the mockingbirds didn't attack me. Because he was outside, he was speaking with the neighbors, had a beer in his hand, and he was like, "Go watch this could be funny." And none of the mockingbirds messed with me. None of them, they all got on the windowsill and just kind of perched while I was mowing the lawn. And then a few of them sat in the different trees and just kind of, looked at stuff and flew around. They did go after him over by the neighbors. But yeah, none of the mockingbirds messed with me. Not in the front yard, not in the backyard when they built in the Texas sage bushes that were there. Did not have that issue. Did not.
they just kind of did their thing. But yeah, I've had that occur multiple times over. I've never. I mean, it's a good thing because obviously they don't feel threatened by me. They know that I'm not going to harm them. But it's just always amused me where it's like, oh, little birdie, you should do a birdie birdie. Vicious beak, but still birdie, cutie, cutie, cutie. There was one set of birds that I really wanted to get. They're called kissing finches, and they're beautiful. You got to look at their color, just so pretty. And you can only get them in pairs because they're a specific type of breed. And I was just like, if I didn't have to deal with like all that sort of stuff. Really would like them. They're really pretty, and then they have a nice song. But I just plus the chemicals that I use to clean, they wouldn't be able to. Besides, I like seeing them out in nature. There's not a time when I've gone out in nature that I haven't had the ability to see a plethora of animals. There were times that, for example, when in Montana, the year of dropping off, I think it was 2016, or 2017, when dropping off the Medal of Honor Art Project pieces in Montana, after the Montana Vortex, and that whole drive. My son was inside sleeping and taking a nap-ish, watching TV, falling asleep, whatever. Just not whatever, just he was, relaxing from being in the van for that long, especially after that traffic. Because of that red Hyundai driving 30 or 35 miles an hour on the highway. Anyway, so I was sitting outside in front of the cabin, smoking a cigarette, just enjoying, looking at the mountains off on the other side of the highway and road. And just, oh wow, this is nice. And this, different people were walking their dogs and stuff like that. And this one female comes up and she's like, oh, where are your dogs? I'm like, oh, they're back at the apartment. Or the house. And she goes, oh, you don't have any with you? Why would I have any with me? I'm in Montana. What's the big deal? She's like, yeah, you're in Montana. What about it? You don't think you need dogs out here? Why would I need dogs out here? I can defend myself. I can take care of my son, and I got this. Why? What? Why do I need dogs? Besides, they're little doxies. They're not going to do anything. So, like, what? She's like, there are bears out here. I'm like, oh, little teddy bears? Little teddy bears? Little fluffy puppies? She's just like, And we had talked about my head injury and all that sort of stuff on Palm Sunday in 2000. She was just like, so you don't have, no big deal. So she kind of walked off and just was like, can't believe you don't have any dogs out here. Well, Ted Bear's going no better. So as I was sitting there, now mind you, I was smoking a real cigarette. So hummingbirds are very peculiar birds. They do not like certain things, but I'm smoking a cigarette, no problem, and watching a few hummingbirds just play grab ass. Just like, all right, whatever. You guys are cute, flying, flittering around. And then one just comes like right here, and I'm like, well, hello. How are you today? And the people that were in the different cabins on the other side, and then the people who were camping on the other side, they kind of just stopped. I'm like, oh, okay, well, yeah, it's a hummingbird. Hi. And fluttering around, and I'm just like, okay, yeah, okay, and just zip, 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 and it's like, yes. Your friends want to go play, but hi, nice to see you. And just stayed right there, just in the vicinity, less than 6 inches from my face. I was like, okay, well, hi. What's going on? Yes, you cutie. Yes, I see your little wings. Yes, you got little wings. Yes. And then one of the hummingbirds that I was playing with just kind of dive bombs and takes the hummingbird, and then they go flutter off and stuff. And I go inside. I'm like, hey, James, you missed something real cool. He looks at me from the TV, looking at the TV, goes, what? I'm like, there's a hummingbird. It came up like right here. He's like, what? Yeah, I was smoking a cigarette and a hummingbird came like right here. And it's just like literally like right here. And he was just, it came that close to you? Yep. Oh my God, Mom, really? What? What'd I do? I was just sitting there smoking a cigarette and the hummingbird came up. I thought it was cool to tell you about, but fine. Fine, I'll let you get back to your TV. I can't believe a hummingbird went up to, yes, it did. It was like right here and it was just zipping around. Oh my God, Mom, really? Yeah. Okay, Mom, alright. Love you too, Mom. Oh, go have another cigarette. Oh my God, Mom. And then I go back outside and the hummingbirds are still doing their thing. And I was just like, oh, alright then. It's no different, yeah. But yeah, I just thought that was a little interesting tidbit. Because yeah, there's a little bird making its little nest right outside on my patio. But at least it's not bees, because I had wasps making a nest outside first, and I was like, no, get out of here. Nope, you go make your nest nowhere near me. Nope, I don't want to get stung. No, thank you. Red. So, the birds, that's cool. You eat those. Go do that.